Welcome to the video using the Threshold Analysis Tool, or TAT, with spatial units. Same threshold. During this video, we will analyze the same threshold across spatial units within a dataset using the TAT. This feature is used when you want to use the same threshold across spatial units. For example, it may be appropriate to use the same threshold for surface areas of similar size or population. This video assumes you have gathered data as described in the Using the Threshold Analysis Tool, TAT, Gathering Data video. For this training, the sample dataset provided with the TAT, DC hypothetical data.v1.mixed.xls, will be used. For instructions on how to load this dataset, please view the Using the TAT Gathering Data video. To begin, choose the DC hypothetical data.v1.mixed.xls sample data file. The Input File Form screen will appear and allow customization of how the data is imported into the TAT. For this analysis, choose Column 1 for event dates, Column 2 for event times, and Column 3 for spatial units. Note that this example dataset contains 4 spatial units based off the 4 quadrants of Washington, D.C. Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, and Southwest. From the input file form, our event dates are in column 1, our event times are in column 2, and our spatial units are in column 3. To continue, click on Select Update and Process. A pop-up window appears, noting that the TAT has completed the process of gathering data and instructing the user to proceed to set analysis type or choose another input file. Select OK to close the pop-up window. This screen displays the data that has been gathered in the TAT. From the navigation pane on the left side of the screen, click the Set Analysis Type checkbox. By setting an analysis type, we are selecting the algorithm characteristics we want to evaluate. For this demonstration, select a scan window of 1, then select Reset for the reset type. Now select the box for Same Threshold across spatial units. The Same Threshold across spatial units option is available for datasets that contain spatial units. Selecting this option will force the TAT to apply the same statistical standard across all spatial units of the data. This option does not allow for thresholds of spatial units to be edited one at a time. Any edits will impact the thresholds of other spatial units. If not selected, the TAT will analyze each spatial unit separately. To learn more about analyzing different thresholds for different spatial units, watch the video Using the TAT with Spatial Units, Different Thresholds. Now we'll select thresholds used by the TAT to determine the number of alerts that would be generated by the dataset. First, click the Set Thresholds checkbox in the navigation bar on the left side of the screen. From this screen, we can set thresholds for all the spatial units included in the dataset. The TAT shows our chosen scan statistic of a 1-day reset algorithm at the top of the screen. It shows the TAT's default setting of a 95th percentile. The term common percentile indicates that the same percentile is used to determine thresholds across all spatial units. If same threshold across spatial units was not checked, a unique percentile would be used for each spatial unit. We can now browse thresholds calculated at the default 95th percentile, or experiment with thresholds that are more or less conservative by changing the values for the percentile, standard deviation, or recurrence interval, now with radio buttons to their left. Let's first change the default threshold to a very low number, so low it would never be used for setting thresholds, but illustrates this functionality of the TAT. For this example, the percentile will be changed to 40. We could also change the recurrence interval to 1 with the same effect. This can be done by moving the sliders or entering new values in the box. To use a different statistic, select the radio button next to the statistic. Note, when using the same threshold across spatial units option, only one statistic can be used at a time. The values selected in this step will apply the same statistic across all spatial units of the data. To view the thresholds and alerts for all spatial units at the chosen statistic, first select Update, and then once the calculation is complete, select Browse Thresholds in the bottom right of the window. The data set that we gathered into the TAT for this example contained 115 customer complaints over a 31-day period, with 4 spatial units. We can now select each spatial unit and observe the change in alerts in the left window. Note that there were 32 alerts in the Northeast spatial unit. Switching to the Northwest spatial unit shows that 30 alerts occurred in this unit over the same 31-day period. Switching to the Southeast spatial unit shows that 30 alerts were generated. Finally, 23 alerts were generated in the Southwest spatial unit. Because we chose an artificially low threshold, we ended up with an alert for every customer complaint, as 32 plus 30 plus 30 plus 23 equals 115 complaints. This example shows the same threshold across spatial units, using an artificially low percentile of 40. This happened to result in identical thresholds and an alert for every call, but this usually isn't the case. Usually the thresholds vary based on setting more realistic thresholds. Earlier, we browsed the default values, and we saw more normal-looking results. When finished browsing the thresholds, close the window and return to the main TAT window. After setting the thresholds, you'll want to save them by using the Create Report checkbox as shown in the video, setting an analysis type, setting a threshold, and creating a report. A report is created for each spatial unit. Thus, in this example, 4 reports would be created. This concludes the video using the TAT with spatial units, same threshold. If you have specific questions, please contact EPA or consult the TAT user manual.